if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because it's just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good morning and welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. Episode 6 of WandaVision, the Halloween episode. I think they call it the Halloween Spooktacular. Alright, that's cute. This is the 90s stylized episode where it's meant to be like Malcolm in the Middle, which I never watched, so I'll just take their word for it. But, I think there is a lot of interesting things that happen here. Between Vision starting to go off on his own and starting to try and figure out what's going on more broadly in Westview, away from Wanda, and then Wanda, by way of the arrival of Pietro, or fake Pietro, that is what's it called? That's an interesting place to put the character. You get a lot of interesting look at her past where it's like she's quizzing him because she's like, I didn't create this, what is this? And this is the first time we get the sense that she's not completely in control, and what does that mean? And it comes in the form of Pietro being this thing that's like, oh, I did not put him here. This is not something I created. I did not create the brother. And he's talking about what it is. It's like, look, this is a sitcom. The brother comes into town, and all of that. It's like it's a very interesting situation to be in, and him being the one that's the mouthpiece, we end up finding out later, for Agatha, where it's like, look, what you did here is really impressive. Like, you don't keep the kids under mind control unless it's for these very special episodes where you need a lot of children extras. So that's not, that's somewhat ethical. Like, you gave everyone better jobs than they had before, and everyone's better off. So it's not completely off of what you're doing, but you just override their free will. And it's an interesting thing where it's like, this is him breaking the fourth wall to Wanda and being like, look, I know what you're doing here, and there's no reason why he would know that. And it's really, and the thing is too, he has the gaps in his memory that are not from the public record, namely whatever Agatha knows about him. So it's a really interesting place to put the character where she has to confront this. Then you take Vision, who's going off on his own, and you get a few really cool moments where it's like, he goes off to, He goes off to, the edge of town and sees everyone just kind of idling because it's not at the forefront of what's going on. It's just kind of background extras. So everyone's just kind of standing around and doing the same thing over and over again. And then when he breaks Agnes out, it's another great thing where it's like, oh, like, she has that moment. Again, we know now she's playing him as like, oh, you're one of the Avengers. Like, but you're dead. Does that mean I'm dead too? Because it's like, and he's like, what do you mean I'm dead? And then I said this, I think, during the initial run of the show, and I said it now. one of my favorite things in this show is Vision being ripped apart as he walks through the barrier to say to Sword, they need help in here. Like, he's willing to put, and the thing is too, it's like he's dying as he goes through that wall, because if he passes through that wall, he no longer exists. He's purely a figment of Wanda's imagination. Like, if he passes through the hex, he's done. He's dead. And he's willing to put it on the line, because he's like, there are innocent, children and people in here who are being, held against their will. You have to get in here somehow and stop him. And stop this from happening. And this is also where Wanda expands the hex and makes it bigger, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like this episode is probably the strongest of the sitcoms, even though I think it does the least to feel like a sitcom. Like, I think that they do handle that moderately well, but not well enough, and I think that is kind of where it loses me. Again, I think the loss, like that Wanda goes through, is so profound that, like, as they go through it, again, we're 2 episodes away from that, but as they go through it, it's like, oh, I understand what drove her to this. It doesn't make it right, but I understand the decision-making that went from point A to point B to point C. And that's, I think that's a testament to, strong writing. But again, the show is still playing. Like that whole moment where she's playing, where she's playing Vision, like, presumably she knows Vision's dead, so she knows that this Vision that she's seeing is an illusion created by Wanda. So I don't understand even now what the point of that was. Who is that for? Who is that helping? To be like, oh, well, I'm going to tell him and break that to him a little bit. Because at the end of the day, what does it do? Besides, I guess the entire thing is we have to drive a wedge between the two of them in some way, so that way she can end up in the depression that will lead, her to let Agnes watch the 2 kids. Like, I guess that's what the entire plan is, but I don't think it's well articulated, and again, that's me extrapolating. That's not in the text, that's me looking at, like, okay, so this is the likely scenario that they came up with to get her from point A to point B. And I feel like that's not a great way to run a show when you're like, well, that's probably it. But yeah, I think that the reason why this episode worked the best out of all of them is that it's taking the traditional sitcom thing that they're doing, the traditional sitcom kind of, like, the tropes of it, and it's like, we're still sitting in that world, but at the same time, we are going out and exploring a little bit more, and spending time setting up other things. Like, where it's still the sitcom, and it's still the general thing, but there's no immediate overwrite when she doesn't get her way. There's no immediate, I think part of it is she's starting to lose the control that she has in there, and she's realizing that, so she's like, let's not fight it, because the more we fight it, the more it's going to get fucked up, so let's just let it ride. I think that is kind of interesting. There's a lot that doesn't work, and a lot of my issues for the last few weeks do still stand, but I think this one does kind of do the best job of doing that. And then we get to the next episode, which we'll talk about next week, which feels largely like filler. But we'll talk about that next week. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.